Have you been making more revenue year after year, or have you been working more hours, but somehow as a business owner, it just not seemed to be landing in your pocket? Hello, my name is Nick, the fractional CFO at Easy Flow CFO. Today we're going to talk about, are you working for free and calling it profit? You know, this seems to be one of the biggest problems that business owners face is paying themselves a market-based wage, right? So let's talk about that a little bit today. So this is for you if you're a business that makes stuff, sells stuff, or does stuff between 100,000 and 5 million a year. You work more hours than your team usually does, so instead of the 40 hours at the end, you've got to work more. You still can't explain where the cash goes, so you're working all these extra hours, you're the business owner, yet it's just not landing in your bank account, right? Your profit never seems to get there. So let's figure out what's going on, why that is, and understand the problem before we can get into the solution today. So it's your owner's pay gap. What is that? Something that 73% of owners in service businesses earning $300,000 or more pay themselves less than a mid-level employee. And you all know this, just so you can say under your breath or comment below right now is, how much do you start off paying yourself? You said $30,000, that's arbitrarily the right number, right? People always seem to be doing that. So let's take a look at and let this sink in a little bit. So you're this team lead, this person that works for you, they're a great person. They make $55,000 a year. They do a great job. At the end of the day, they get to go home, right? Versus you don't make that much. You only make that $30,000. If you're lucky, again, let's hope, and you built this business, right? You're working 60 or more hours and it's just not showing up. If you're taking all the risk, why aren't you getting all the reward? Who's really winning in this scenario? Think about that. So how did this happen, right? You started the business. And as you start yourself, you're trying to pay everybody. It's a little bit of a mess and it's reactive. So as you get money, you pay money out, right? You don't know anything what you're doing. You're just hoping it all works for the best. And hopefully you've kind of gotten over that a little bit. Your revenue started to grow. You hired more people. You paid them a market rate. What's your pay? What's left over? Did you ever think about this as if you had to calculate everybody else, you need to calculate yourself, especially because what if you had to like sit out and hire someone to replace you right now? Think about that. You want the business to continue, don't you? So whatever is left over, we call that profit. And one of the most interesting things I like to ask is, what piece of business advice have you got that you liked? And some people really seem to be, oh man, this is great. I got a market-based wage and I get my profits. And that's really the structure of an LLC, right? That's how it is. But you need to normalize your P&L, your profit and loss statement, and say, okay, am I putting a market-based wage into my calculation so that if I took it out, then I have profit left over, because nobody gets paid nobody does work for nothing. There's no such thing as a free lunch, right? So why should you, the owner, have to do that? So that profit on your P&L, it's not really profit, it's your unpaid labor. Think about that. Yes, you're supposed to work and put into it and bootstrap, but again, we want you to be recognized. Everybody needs recognized for their work, right? So you're subsidizing your business with free work and you're calling it a successful company. Shh, don't tell anyone, right? So let's do the math for a $500,000 business. That's how much revenue, for how much revenue they make in a year, and then including your $30,000, $432,000 is taken out. That means there's a profit of $68,000. That's what your accountant tells you. That's great. The market rate for your job, though, is not 30, it's $120,000, right? So there's a pay gap of $90,000. Let's go a little bit further here. So let's talk about your real profit. Your CPA said you made $68,000. However, your real profit for you was minus $22,000. Again, it's kind of this idea that while you want to include it in your calculation, you don't include it, your market-based rate, it doesn't come out taxable unless you've set it up that way, right? So that's sort of the confusion is, okay, I'm trying to minimize my tax liability, which if your building wealth is false, that's your greatest key performance indicator is your tax liability. Let's move on now. So that profit that you thought you made was actually a big loss for you. That's economic reality. Again, CPA says you made $68,000, but your real profit, you were missing $22,000 for the work you did. So why does this matter? Well, let me just go back a second. For a business owner, you get a salary for what you do, you get a profit for what you own. Think about that. You get a salary for what you do and a profit for what you own. Let's go a little bit on with this. So your business can't survive without you, or if it can, then what would we need to replace you? That's why we always need to put that in there. So if you stop working, it collapses. The business, it's a job, right? You are probably one of the most important people in your job, especially if you're early on. If you're able to take that key man risk out, then that's great. So your real break even is a lie because you're not including your wage in there. So yeah, your wages and salary and profit are all in there in one lump sum, but it's not enough. $22,000 not enough, right? So every financial decision you've made so far is based on, I don't want to say fake numbers, but this isn't numbers you need to be working off of. You're never going to build wealth if you're not actually putting money into your pocket, right? You took all the risks, where's the reward? So it's a simple fix, but it's not going to be easy. Although that's what we do make our easy numbers for, is so that we can take this and make it easier for you. So step one is just calculate what a market-based rate is. I like to go to Indeed, just look to see what you should be making and decide where's your skill level there. I don't necessarily want to base it on the amount of years, but number two things is how skillful are you at your job, and can you afford to pay yourself that? Because remember, you're responsible for paying yourself and making that wage and that revenue. So step two is calculate the real break even. What do you need on a monthly basis, but also looking at different trends and all that that come into play in forecasting your real break even, and making the decisions from a real economic truth, not from an accounting fiction. We're not trying to figure out your tax liability. We're trying to figure out money in your pocket. So if you're not paying yourself a market-based wage, you're working for free and calling it profit. And this is one of the biggest things to watch out for when people are trying to sell you on a business and running your own business. So stop lying to yourself and know the real number. Want to know the number? In 2 minutes, you can take our owner pay gap score, just answer 12 simple questions without putting any numbers in, get an and what you'll do is you'll know how poorly you're really doing or how good you're really doing on paying yourself and running your business effectively. So comment down below pay gap, let us know what the pay gap is, or you can actually go to Go to easyflowcfo-paygap.scoreapp.com, links in the description, and you can take the 2 minute pay gap score and find out how bad you're really doing or how good you're really doing.